Hello and welcome to episode 1 of The Australian Runner, a show about running and everything running related. I'm Ben, and with me is Chris.
Hi everyone, good to be here.
Alright, let's get down to it. In today's very special first episode, we're going to talk about why we run, how we got into it, and what we want to do with our running careers. So, Chris, you start off. How did you first get into running?
Well, I was back in, I think, when I was in prep or grade 1 at primary school, and I was looking for a sport to play, and I was quite quick, I'd say, around the playground. Always loved a game of chasey, so Mum just took me down to my local Lee Athletics on a
Yeah,
Saturday morning. So I just jumped in, I did all the events. You got to do your 3 track and 2 field, I think it was back then.
yeah, that
Yeah,
sounds right.
so jumped in there, absolutely loved it. And I think that was under sevens. And since then, I really haven't looked back. I've done athletics almost every season since, and that was at least 12, 13 years ago now.
And so, what are you up to these days?
I'm still running. I run for St Kevin's Old Boys Athletics Club over the summer season. I don't particularly run during the winter. I just run around the suburb, don't compete. I do the occasional fun run. I think I did 2 this year. I did a one around Albert Park of 5 kilometres, and I did a tan time trial with just other local fun running organisations.
Oh, yeah, that sounds good. And what do you want to get out of your running?
I'm always looking to improve, looking to set goals. That's the best thing about competing, is that you can see where you're at. You can see how well your training's gone, where you can improve. It's just one of those sports that you can see improvement. You can see whether you've done the hard work that's required. So my goals for this season were to break 50 seconds in the 400, break 2 minutes in the 800, and break 4 minutes 30 in the 1500. And I can say I haven't done any of them so far. I have set though a 1500 PB around 4:35 just the other week, so that's coming down. But there's definitely work left to be done. But I've got to the end of Feb, so
Yeah, still
plenty
got a long
left.
way ahead.
Exactly. What about you? What got you into running and athletics?
Well, probably the year after you, my mum just happened to take me down to Lille Athletics, and there you were. Given that you're my older brother, that's not much of a surprise.
Yeah.
So yeah, I started in under six, I think, and
Yep.
did it the whole way through to under 15. Not quite as good as you in the whole running around in circles business, but
Yeah.
I stuck with it. I only did one season of seniors after I finished though, because I think that's where the biggest difference between the two of us comes in. I run a fair bit and I mainly do that for fitness and I play hockey, so that's where I like to use my running. So I'm not really going for the speed and I definitely don't have any personal best that I'm tracking and trying to beat, whereas you do. So I think that sort of gives us two different perspectives on the whole running sport, and I'm sure most people would fall into one of those two
Yeah,
categories.
definitely.
I can't really think of any other categories. People basically just want fitness or want to go fast.
Yeah. Have you ever done any serious training, or are you just a run around the block type, run a couple of Ks type of runner?
At school in years 9 and 10, I was running with the athletics team, and there were some pretty serious runners there. So that was two trainings a week. That was pretty tough. So yeah, that's probably the most serious running for only those two seasons probably that I've done. Whereas I know you train fairly seriously a bit more than that.
Yeah. I didn't really when I was young, super young. I remember Lit Athletics was literally just rock up every Saturday, see if you can run a bit faster than the week before. But once I got to secondary school, we kind of stepped it up a notch, 2 trainings a week, racing on the weekend. It was just that during the winter, I'd be playing footy. I only did 1 year of cross country and was like, nah, this is it. I want to play footy instead. And so it seemed like over the winter, my fitness would drop and then I'd
Yeah.
get back into it, get fairly fit. And by Feb, I'd be pretty fit. And then same thing. But these days, since school finishes, I've run all year round, mainly in the winter, just running kilometres and just round local trails and paths, exploring, and get into the serious session type
Y-
running
Yeah, yeah.
in summer.
So have you stopped running at any stage or thought about maybe giving up the sport at all?
Um, there's times where I've stopped competing. I
Yeah.
suppose that's what you mean, but I really haven't stopped running since even I left school. Um, it seems to just that seems to be my exercise and that. But I did take a gap year after I finished school in 2014,
Yeah.
and I went over and lived in England for a year. And that year I ran maybe 4 or 5 times a week, just like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, not very far, but it was just something, and my fitness just stayed around about the same. I mean, it was good, but as soon as I came back from a gap year, I didn't do the summer season here, but got into harder and better training so that by the next season I jumped straight back into competing
Oh,
for a
yeah.
club. And because I just think that competing gives me motivation, and so that when my motivation's lacking, it's because I haven't raced frequently enough. And so over the winter, sometimes that occurs. So that's why I'm like, all right, I'll sign up for a fun run. I'll do something, see how I'm going. Because really, I train to race,
Train
and
to race. Yeah. It's a good way to say it.
I think that that's what provides my motivation to continue running. You race well. Oh, I want to even do better now. All right, let's do some more hard training. Let's see if I can improve it, get a PB or whatever. And when I'm just not racing, it seems that my training might get a bit monotonous or something like that. Do you find that, or you're just happy to keep running without competing?
Well, there have been large stretches of time that I've been without a run. I only really picked up running recently again, maybe 6 months ago. Yeah, so there was probably maybe a year where I mainly cycled or did training with hockey, and that was basically all the exercise that I got.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit of swimming thrown in there as well, but no real long runs or that sort of thing. But yeah, in the last 6 months, I've sort of picked up my running again, and I think that it's just really good to like go out, see the streets, get out of the house, listen to some music as you're pounding the pavement. So besides running, what are you doing at the moment with your time?
I'm currently just finished second year uni. I'm doing civil engineering at RMIT, really enjoying that. So I'm doing that full time. That keeps me occupied most of the year. Also have work at just a local supermarket packing shelves and stuff like that to get a bit of cash. But otherwise, that's what I do most of the time. I don't run full time. I'm not a elite athlete or anything. I'm a part-time athlete with a full-time uni gig. What about you, Ben?
Well, I'm also at RMIT, but I'm doing aerospace engineering. Yeah, full time like you. So finding time to run isn't too challenging because I usually have a couple of days off a week. And I've been trying to ride to uni to just keep up some general fitness as well if I can't get a run in. And that really improves the aerobic capacity. So that definitely helps with running as well. But yeah, just run weekends, days after uni, that sort of thing. I don't really have too much of a routine with my running, but I try and run maybe 3 times a week,
Yeah,
4 times a week, that
nice.
sort of thing. How many times a week do you reckon you'd run?
At the moment, I'm running 5 times a week. Uh, they're spread between longer runs and shorter runs. Never do the same thing more than once a week. At the moment, my days off are Fridays and Sundays. Fridays tend to be because I race on a Saturday, and then I'm so sore on the Sunday that it's just like, nah, give it up. But I'm sure as my training gets more serious and as I look to improve further, that I'll probably end up running 6 times a week and just have the one day a week off to rest and recuperate before my competition.
I think that just about wraps up our introduction segment. Over the coming weeks, we'll be talking about motivation, the sort of training that we do and we think are good, our experiences with running, all those sorts of things. But we're going to round out the podcast today with some running news of the past couple of weeks. Take it away, Christopher.
Yeah, we've got a lot to catch up on, considering the season's about 2 months old now. It's been a lot of news. The big news is the Nitro Athletics Series, which was announced in Melbourne a few weeks ago with the headline act Usain Bolt coming to Melbourne during the Spring Racing Carnival to help participate in the first ever season. Currently, there are 6 teams set to compete: the Bolt All Stars, Australia, USA, Great Britain, Japan, and New Zealand. And each team will have 12 men and 12 women set to compete over the 3 nights in early Feb over a range of different competitions. I don't think there's any really stock standard athletics events. I think they're either weird distances or the field events have weird quirks to them to make it just a bit different. Nominations closed actually on Sunday night, so all the athletes who wanted to compete have had to nominate, and it'll be interesting to see who the selectors of Nova Perez, Tamsin Lewis, Paul Burgess, and Benita Willis select for that season. They don't know what to really expect as the first one. I think the athletes are quite looking forward to it. Also, unfortunately, John Atherton, a life member of Athletics Australia, passed away, I think, on the 22nd of November, and he was 82. So a sad time for those, especially in New South Wales, because he had a huge impact on sport as a coach and as well as mentor and behind the scenes as well. Now to the events that have actually happened and results. What's been going on in the world? We've already had a huge amount of events early in the season. Athletics Victoria is up to the 7th round of its Shield competition, and most of the other states are into their Shield or inter-club competitions as well. A couple of the big meets big championship races have already been run and won. The biggest was the Australian Marathon Championships in Melbourne in October, and Thomas DeCanto from Victoria won the men's in 2 hours 20 and 53 seconds, and for the women it was Virginia Maloney first across the line in 2 hours 34:17. The half marathon highlighted by Eloise Wellings, the Olympian just recently returned from Rio, who won by only 30 seconds over Haji, who later won the City to Sea a month later, and the men Brett Robinson won, also returning from Rio. The men's 10K was a good, tough tussle between Stuart McSwain, who got the chocolates over Jordan Williams. So that rounds out the longer stuff. But then they had the Noosa Bolt, the 5 kilometre series, which was in tandem with the triathlon over there. And Lyndon Hall, the 1500 metre Rio semi-finalist, won that by second over Eloise Wellings. And Victoria Mitchell came in third just behind. And the men, Brett Robinson, again, dominated the field, with Stuart McSwain impressing in second and James Niparis third. The Mitchell Street Mile was run in Darwin, up north in hot conditions, and Jordan Guzman did well to beat the Olympian Ryan Gregson over the mile in 4 minutes and 5 seconds with a lot of tough bends and turns. That is a very impressive result. For the women, Genevieve Lacaze beat Zoe Buckerman and Lyndon Hall. The State Relay Championships for New South Wales were held over the weekend, and it featured Olympians Michelle Janicki, Annalise Ruby and Jess Thornton. Exciting time in the women's 4x1 with just 0.28 of a second separating the first 3 teams of UTS North, Sydney Uni and Illawong. Sydney Uni ended up victors in the women's 4x1 and 4x2, and Illawong won the women's 4x4. In the men's event, Sydney University cleaned up in the shorter sprints, the 4x1 and 4x2, whilst UTS North outdid them in the longer 4x4 and 4x8. Also, Victoria had their state relay championships, and there was a much greater spread of teams in Victoria, and so the events were spread around evenly. A couple of highlights were the women's 4x1, Sandringham won, and it featured Tamsin Lewis, and the men's 4x8 was won by St Kevin's in a state record of 7:22.24, and had the Olympian Peter Boll and Australian record holder Alex Rowe run, with the 4x4 men's and women's races the finals to be held at Zatopek later next week. Also, there's been some longer distance championships. There's the New South Wales Women's 3K with Vic Mitchell winning, and in the men's, Jordan Guzman and Josh Johnson, the ACT boys, went 1-2 in the New South Wales champs. So the first New South Welshman across the line was Adrian Plummer in 8:11. The Vic 5K championships were, I think, a week later, and Lyndon Hall won it over Virginia Maloney, who previously won the Australian Marathon Championship. So she's gone from marathons to 5Ks in the space of a month. And the men, Jordan Guzman, continued his strong form, ran 14:02, cleaned up the field with Mitchell Brown, the first Victorian across the line, in 14:08, and the world junior representative Isaac Hockey in second. Vic Milers had a strong field with the men's 3K, won by Jack Rayner in 8 minutes, 0.8 over a top quality field which featured Risley pacing for the first 2.5 kilometres. And with Zatopek and the Australian All Schools coming up, there's plenty to look forward to on the athletics scene.
So I think that just about wraps up the news and wraps up our episode. So thanks everyone for listening to this very special first episode. You can find us on iTunes, SoundCloud and YouTube as The Australian Runner. We'll be back next week, so goodbye until then.
See you later. There's 5 teams set to compete. The Bolt All-Stars, Australia, USA, Japan. 6 teams set to compete.
6 teams set to compete.